Hey, it's Joe from the TestGuild, and welcome to the weekly news show for the week of August 1st. This show is dedicated to helping you succeed with all kinds of end-to-end automation testing, whether it's performance testing, functional testing, SRE, security testing, DevOps testing, any types of news and updates that you need to know to start off your week right is what we cover in this show. So grab your favorite cup of coffee or tea and let's do this. And this episode of the TestGuild News Show is sponsored by the TestGuild. It's a blog, podcast, and online events dedicated 100% to helping you succeed with creating end-to-end automation awesomeness. So I just celebrated my 11th year of running the TestGuild. I've been consistently posting weekly content around automation awesomeness for free for over 11 years. So thank you everyone for your support. I can't believe how fast time flies. And if you haven't already, make sure to go over to testguild.com and subscribe and become one of our Guild Elite members. So the first piece of news that caught my attention last week was about Postman. And if you haven't caught my interview with Kristen, definitely check it out. Really great interview all around Postman. But Postman just announced that they now support WSDL functionality. And I'm not sure how many people still use WSDLs, but it is an older technology that have mostly been replaced by REST services, but it's still very popular, especially if you work at an enterprise level. So if you're doing any type of API testing that has to deal with WSDL, it is now supported by Postman, and it says it's one of the oldest requests in their issue tracker users commonly ask for. So if you've been waiting for WSDL support in Postman, your wait is over. Definitely check that out. Also, Selenide announced that they released a new version, 5.231. And looks like this release really focused in on improving iframe functionality. And if you've never heard of Selenide, I'd highly recommend you check it out. I have some really good episodes around this particular automation framework that my friend Hima highly recommends. She did a really good presentation at one of our meetups. So I'll have this in the show notes as well if you really want to take a deeper dive into how Selenide can help you with your Selenium automation efforts. Also, I found a really interesting post on LinkedIn from Patrick Döring on using Playwright and 7-Facet to create pretty much infinite type of parallel testing using AWS Lambda functionality. And I just thought it was a really great breakdown of a real-world example how someone is trying to scale their end-to-end test. And he gives some lessons learned on how to actually using AWS with Lambda help them to spin up an infinite amount of machines and the different type of challenges they ran into and how they're thinking of improving it and how they implemented it. So really good blog post here. If you're dealing at all with automation, you know how hard it is to scale up your test. And here's one example of how one person, one team was able to achieve that. So definitely check that out as well. All right, so you've heard about codeless automation, you heard about low-code automation, and I know a lot of you are rolling your eyes like, impossible. I think as these technologies mature, I think there's actually going to be some things that are actually going to work. Obviously, you still need a tester, you still need a brain to be able to put this together and make sure you're automating the right things. But I think over time, these tools are going to get smarter and smarter. And one of the objections I always hear is, oh, well, when they start automating code or developers, then how come no one ever talks about automating developer code? Well, actually they have. And so I just wanted to share this news article. The no-code solution bubble raised $100 million. And this is actually a no-code development solution. A lot of companies actually use this. A lot of them are using it to do like a proof of concept. And once they have it down, then they usually do some sort of custom development. Or some people just actually run full-on production-worthy platforms using Bubble, all using no code whatsoever. It's just a drag and drop interface. So I don't know if you've ever seen Bubble, but really interesting technology. And just the reason why I show this is that I think it actually highlights areas that no code type solutions can actually help us with automation. And one of the no code solutions that's highly being touted lately, or the buzzword, is RPA. And RPA actually shows up in the news last week as well. I know a lot of vendors really promote the Gartner report. I don't know how much faith you put into the Gartner report. I don't know how much money gets into it. It should be totally objective from what I know. So a lot of vendors do promote this whenever the Gartner report comes out. And Gartner just released their Magic Quadrant for the robotic process automation solutions. And so it's really just an interesting read, just to get even a level of an understanding of where the market is going. And they talk about how they've seen a big uptick in RPA, interest in RPA becoming more and more popular. I think this is actually a solution that test automation engineers could learn a lot from and start incorporating themselves as just another way to add value to their companies, using RPA to help with more business type automation, not necessarily functional automation. And it just goes over some of the things that they feel an RPA tool needs to do, the different criteria they use to judge the different solutions that are out in the market. And no surprise here, UiPath shows up as one of the top leaders in the Magic Quadrant. It's one of the top players you've probably heard of when you deal with RPA. So just an interesting report that you should definitely check out, and I'll have a link to this in the show notes as well. So I don't remember where I saw the post about the Magic Quadrant. It's probably on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty much sure it probably came from Jim Hazen. If you don't know Jim Hazen, you definitely should check out Jim. Jim is always on LinkedIn. He's always adding really valuable insight in the comment sections of a lot of these posts. I think I actually saw his comment on what UiPath actually posted on LinkedIn, and that's how I found out about the Magic Quadrant. And Jim is an automation expert. He's actually also an RPA expert. So just definitely a good resource to know and to follow if you're not following already. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Jim and thank him for all his contributions to helping with creating automation awesomeness. So I'm always looking for new technologies, new trends. Another thing that caught my eye that I've never heard about before was Volkswagen and TraceTronic established NeoCX, which is a joint venture for automated software integration. And the interesting point about this is it's software automation for cars. So this platform was created to create highly automated testing and integration of automotive software and digital functions. So like I said, I've never heard about this before. So when I saw this, I dived in a little bit deeper. And I said, oh, this is cool. This is probably a cool technology to learn. So I said, what is TraceTronic? And so you go to TraceTronic, and it's an automative DevOps platform, which I think is kind of cool. Like I said, I've never heard of this before. They have other testing solutions. I'm always on the lookout for new companies, new techniques for helping automate different products and different services. And this looks like an interesting development here with automative DevOps platform. So something to keep a lookout for. I think this is going to be a growing trend. Obviously, with Tesla, with all these companies coming online now with electric cars, I think this is a growing area. So if this is something that interests you, I would definitely check that out. And before I forget, I also want to announce that I'm going to be hosting and emceeing Applitools' next Future of Testing Mobile. This is a great event if you want to learn more about any type of automation, but specifically about mobile, which is a growing trend. And if you're in the Australian time zone, so this is going to be 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. for me, but if this time zone works for you, I would definitely recommend checking out this event. It's free, and there's a lot of great speakers from a lot of awesome companies that are going to talk about ways that they found that helps them automating mobile devices. So definitely check it out. And I would highly recommend registering even if you can't make the live event, because I think Applitools eventually releases the recordings of the sessions if you've registered for it. So definitely check this out. Next up, we have performance and site reliability news. All right, so Dynatrace recently announced AIOps. And they had a news release a few days ago on how they announced that their customers can now extend their Smartscape and the Dynatrace platform real-time and continuous updating topology to bring Dynatrace's powerful AIOps and analytics capabilities to more open source services, including things like OpenTelemetry, FluentDB, and Prometheus. So really cool solution by Dynatrace that always, I think that one of the companies I've seen that are always innovating in this area as well. And as you've seen for the past 3 or 4 shows, AIOps has been a thing, and I think it's becoming more and more a thing. And a lot of these companies are starting to incorporate solutions to help you leveraging AI and to get more done with the technologies you're currently using. So another technology, another company I haven't heard of before, but I did notice they recently received a round of funding, and that is the company Blameless. Blameless recently secured 30 million Series B funding to help them with their site reliability engineering solutions. Like I said, I only bring this up because I'm always trying to look for trends, and it looks like site reliability engineering is more and more of a thing over the past few years. And when I see companies investing in these solutions, and it tells me that it's an indicator that this is something I should pay attention to. So just interesting to see what companies are backing with their money. And if you go to Blameless, just to see what kind of services and kind of products that they offer. Kind of cool. They offer end-to-end SRE platforms to help teams a culture of resilience. So it's probably a company I'll probably check out a little bit more and maybe try to get them on my podcast to learn more about what they do and what they're seeing with their customers. And speaking of SRE and performance, it seems like this is a really great time to be involved with performance testing, performance engineering. I want to give some more shout outs from LinkedIn. Another person I think you should definitely check out if you're into performance engineering is Lloyd Watts. Lloyd is always posting really interesting articles. He gets a lot of data from LinkedIn and he creates these really cool graphics. And he's able to kind of distill what he's seeing in the market. And he just sees that there's a lot of activity going on in performance testing with companies being acquired by other companies, and how he sees that this is becoming a really growing area for performance testers. And he highlights, based on his research and what he's been seeing, there's really a lot of great opportunities for talented performance engineers and testers in this market right now. So if you're into performance testing, want to learn about performance testing and performance engineering, I think it's a good time to get involved. So thank you, Lloyd, for that. And definitely check out Lloyd on LinkedIn. I'll have a link to him and to this post in the show notes. And obviously, Lloyd has also been on my podcast. I'll have a link to that interview as well. Up next is security news. First one is a recent attack on unemployment data breach that happened. So Florida recently warned of unemployment data breaches that affected nearly 58,000 folks. It just goes into detail about the information was stolen, and it just recommends you monitor your financial accounts and reports. Just another example of how security testing is really critical, especially in government programs like this. Don't know how much thought was put into security, but regardless of what product or solution you're working on, if you look at the certain risks that your company is involved with, a lot of times security is completely overlooked. So definitely check out that for sure. Also in security news, or I think it's kind of security news, the Pentagon is now experimenting with using artificial intelligence to see days in advance. It's almost like Minority Report. Like I said, we've been speaking a lot about AI and machine learning. So if the Pentagon is starting to experiment with AI, it just shows the importance that testers need to know about AI, to be involved in AI machine learning, to make sure that bad things don't happen, unintended consequences don't happen, and that we're there actually leading our teams whenever we're creating these type of solutions to make sure there's nothing that's getting by that could create a security issue or a testing or a bug that could compromise our systems and services. And so the Pentagon is the latest to jump on the AI bandwagon. And last in security news, DeepFactor just released a new version of their platform 1.8. So here's a list of some of the new features and enhancements that were added to DeepFactor that really enhance your application security observability capabilities. So I'll also have a link to an interview I did with the folks at DeepFactor as well, if you want to learn more about how you really should up your automation for security as well. That's it for this episode of the TestGuild News Show. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.